is basically like the pitch, right? So is deliver more faster with managed creative teams, right? So get more out of your creative budget, build a sustainable, high output, high quality creative operations with the best creative teams from Africa. That's the pitch, essentially, right? So if I'm a marketing manager, or I'm a, how do we call it? Yeah, if I'm a marketing manager, product design manager, whatever it is, this is kind of like the pitch, right? So, and the whole thing is like get more out of your creative operations, right? So if I have, say, $100,000 for the year for my creative operations in the US, that gets me a certain thing, but I can guarantee in Africa that gets you way more outputs when it comes to just like how many people you can hire and the quality, right? So that's basically the pitch. And I think these are all projects that were executed with like talent here in Africa, right? So for example, this is a brand identity project we did for a company called View Health. They are like a health tech startup, and we went full stack, right? Brand identity, website design and development, product design, and then we collaborated with Effect Studios, which is like another company here in Africa, to get the development done. So like this company essentially built the product at, I think they were at Series A, seed going to A. So at the seed stage, like we worked with them, and then when they're going to their Series A, we also got to work with them. And this is like Orlux, this is Basic Care, this is Entas, this is Deepen. And like this, honestly, in my opinion, is work that can compete anywhere in the world, right? This is like high quality output. This is not, subpar work. We built a whole illustration system. So this is the branding, and this is what the website design looked like. It's changed a bit now because they've been using it and they've tweaked it. But in my opinion, this is high quality work, right? That could essentially compete, anywhere in the world, right? This is another one we did for a brand called Orlux, right? Yeah, so like honestly, this is high quality work that any business anywhere will find useful. Okay. So this was done by people here. Like every single input and output from this project, I'm trying to find Deepen. Every single input from this project was done by teams here in Africa. All right, this is messing up now. Okay, so I'm still on Webflow. So this was the website. It's down now because I just wasn't like, but you get the idea. Hey, what's up, LinkedIn? All that here. So this video is not going to teach you anything. It's not going to, like, I'm just sharing a random idea that I gave up on. It's a business I was trying to build that I gave up on, that I think is still viable. So if anybody's out there is listening, maybe find it interesting. And also, I do think there are some people building it, but I have some ideas on like the approach. I didn't go ahead and do this myself just because I didn't want to commit. Maybe I'll still go back to it. I don't know. And there's some risks, right? Some risks and opportunity costs that it was kind of making me feel like, do I think this is worth investing the time in? But essentially, here's the idea: offshoring creative operations. Okay, so a big trend in the US right now, and it's been a trend for like at least 2 to 3 years. Like seriously, I think it's been there for long, but it's getting mainstream over the last 2 to 3 years, which is essentially offshoring certain operations in your business. So you're in the US, maybe Europe, you run a company, and then there are certain talents that are not on a strategic layer, right? So this is not senior management, this is not decision making, this is not C-suite. This is more technical execution and managing of technical execution, right? So middle layer to like, the low levels. These tasks can be outsourced to people in different countries who are not in the US, who can be able to do them because they're educated, they speak English, they're good at it, and they get to make great income, and you get to save a lot of money, right? Because this person might cost you maybe $120 something thousand a year in the US, or the equivalent in Europe, but outsource this to like some place like India, which has been like the number one go-to outsourcing place for technology work for the longest time. But outsourcing places like India, Indonesia, Latin America, those places, and you get to pay maybe like 1/3 of the price, right, a year for the same level of quality of work with a little bit of management. So it's becoming mainstream. And recently, somewhere.com, they used to be known as Shepherd, they sold for like 52 million. They've been around for 2 years. I think 4 years. They've been around for 4 years, right? And those kinds of acquisitions tell you like where investors think the opportunity is, or where the ecosystem of the market thinks the opportunity is going to be, right? So currently, outsourcing talent, offshoring, and getting people in other countries to do work that is of similar or the same quality that you paid 1/3 for is huge. Okay, so what's the opportunity for Africa? I think there's a lot. Andela tried this with development talent. I think they've kind of expanded now into design, because I know a few designers that have signed out to Andela, but I still think there is a lot of opportunity to still offshore certain jobs to Africa. Okay, now I am the creative space, so communication design, websites, marketing design, basically anything creative, photo, video, animation, 2D, 3D illustrations, the whole gamut, right? That's my space. And the problem I see here is there's a lot of talent in Africa, a good amount of talent in Africa, especially in Nigeria. It's crazy, but in Ghana too. Not as much as Nigeria though, but between Ghana and Nigeria, and even I'm finding right now like places like Senegal and Cameroon, there are some incredible talent, creative talent there, but the ecosystem in Africa isn't rewarding this talent enough, right? And there could be a number of different reasons for that: capital, development, the stages of the businesses that they're in, and the value of creative to them. The ecosystem, in the sense that does this creative output actually help businesses drive real, baseline improvements in their incomes, right? But for whatever reason, or for a mix of these reasons, this creative talent is not being rewarded. So you have very talented but frustrated creatives. And in the same vein, on the other side of the world, you have businesses that will take any opportunity to actually outsource and save costs when it comes to delivering some of these things, right? So I've been thinking for the longest time, there's an opportunity to bridge that gap, right? So your business is essentially going to be, how do you bridge the gap between the talent here, which is the supply, and the demand in other parts of the world, like the US and Europe, primarily the US, because they have the highest costs when it comes to these things. But here's why I think my approach to it has been different. It's not just creating the gap, it's managed talent, okay? Because as much as these individuals are creative and talented, they lack certain things that will make them useful tools for businesses, right? And I hate to use the word tool, but that's what it is. So let me just, okay, that's a bit demeaning, my bad, forgive me. Let's say useful resources for businesses, right? One is management, okay? It's not just having the talent to do something, it's being able to manage the process of doing the thing in a way that aligns with, like, business constraints, goals, outcomes, timelines, etc. The second is just resources. So it's space to work from, environment, energy, like electricity, some resources like tools, software, and like internet. So that's the other thing that some of these people are lacking. So for example, the reason why a US company will not work from somebody from Africa is because we have those real issues, right? Somebody's going to tell you, hey, I didn't get my job done because there was a power cut. You're trying to get on calls with them, my environment is noisy. And I'm not speaking from some stereotypical perspective, right? I've done this. I've worked with talent from Ghana, some from Nigeria, and we've collaborated with clients in the US, and these are some real issues, right, that I see. So even with like working remotely with talent in Africa, I see some of those problems where I'm trying to get on a call with somebody and it's like, oh, they don't have power, their environment is noisy, I can't hear them properly on a call. Like, it's a real issue, right? So first is management, second is environment and resources, and third is just like overall guidance, right? If the talent doesn't have these things around them, they are not very useful to the business, right? And it's the thing I keep saying, that talent alone is not enough. So the business would have to take on all these risks, right? To be able to provide value, okay? So it's not just like, oh, we are connecting you to talent and then we are off, right? It's like, no, this is managed talent. And the second part of my idea that I think is interesting is managed teams. So not individual talent, right? Because oftentimes I realize that, at least for the quality of creative output that I want to get to, it's often about it's often about a combination of abilities, right? So let's say for a brand identity project, at least the way I like to operate, yes, I need a brand identity designer, but I also need an illustrator and I need a motion designer, right? And most people, most teams, most operations I've seen try to like get a one man that could do all these things, which is fair. But I think for the kind of quality that I like to produce, typically I like to have one person for each, right? And I know that for some of the biggest businesses in the world, that's how they operate, which is why they get the outcomes that they get. So it's not just talent, it's teams, right? So the pitch is that you're building this full stack creative teams, and you know, these businesses in the US are just hiring these teams, right? So forget individuals, right? It's like we're giving you a team that can actually deliver, right? So you have the team, that team has a manager, and the business kind of liaises with that team and they're able to deliver on whatever that they need. So that team is dedicated to that business. Okay. I think it's a model that can work because it has a lot of benefit. It makes life simple for the businesses. It guarantees the delivery, but it's also a lot of risk, right? And I know one or two businesses I know one business in particular that's trying some of these things. I think they're producing the space, they're providing the space, they're providing like access to internet. I think they're managing these teams as well, but they are more in the development, you know, dev space. But that's what I think. That's what I think the opportunities. That's what I think like a potential product or service that solves the problem could be. Okay. Now, one more thing. I've seen products like Meaningful Gigs, and I think they were trying to do something similar. They're pivoting away from Africa, I think, at least in terms of their overall messaging. But I do think that the approach to talent acquisition is wrong. And a very good acquaintance of mine, Sydney Sam, is also building Workspace, and I think they may have the same problem. I don't know, I should have said this to him privately, but I'm doing this now, so hopefully he doesn't mind. And the problem is that they're trying to acquire talents individually, whilst I think they should acquire talent community first. Okay, so let me explain. I have a lot of people that want to work with me in terms of like, you know, creatives, because I just teach a lot, right? And I'm mostly teaching them things that is their number one problem, which is how do we make more money from our skill and our talent, right? That does two things. One, it helps me filter out the most senior people, because oftentimes the people that are interested in making more money with their craft, at least, you know, at a serious level, are people that have already like been doing this for a while, and they're not juniors. You still get like one or two juniors here and there, but they're mostly seniors, right? So by teaching people how to focus on the business side of things, you attract like, you know, skill talent, and you're not doing talent acquisition one-on-one, right? Because you're almost building a community. So I have a community that I run on on WhatsApp called the 100K Creative, and there are quite a number of people in there. And I did one cohort where I did like a 3 to 6 months, you know, thing, teaching people the different aspects of like how to be a more profitable creative. I think that one cohort has actually given me the most leverage when it comes to just getting folks to want to work with me, right? Because I've attracted a certain kind of talent. I have a community of people, and these people kind of feel like they know me, they want to vibe with me, and if I'm doing something, they want to be a part of it, right? And I've benefited from like that relationship. So I think, especially for Sydney and even Meaningful Gigs, like the very first time I saw them, I realized like that should have been the strategy, especially because they raised the money, right? So for example, if I were Meaningful Gigs and I raised, I think like maybe it was $12 million or something, or whatever the amount was. If I were Meaningful Gigs and I raised $12 million of whatever, here are the things I would have done to actually build a ridiculous pool of talent to start sourcing from. One, I'll launch a community, right? Name the community, and this community is aimed at helping designers, first of all, improve in some specific areas that they want, that makes them self-sufficient. So the business side of things is typically like one, right? So business side of things, how to make, how to get remote gigs, like those are things that, you know, creatives want. So I'm going to launch a community that does that, right? And I'm going to hire like a community manager or like a few community managers in all the different countries, the hotspots where I feel like the opportunity could be, right? Or the talents could be, you know, condensed, right? I don't know if that's the right word. So I'm going to launch a community, hire community managers, and then I would actually launch design challenges, right? Because again, I have the capital. I just raised a ton of money, and my goal is to find the best talent as quickly as possible. And there is no quicker way to find motivated, hungry people who are really, eager to do the work than putting a challenge and putting some reward on it, right? So give away a MacBook. It's going to cost you like a few $1,000s. Or give away subscriptions to like Creative Cloud, right? So I'm gonna launch this communities, and I'm going to run like almost like a monthly design challenge, because let's say I'm giving up 12 MacBooks in a year, and it's costing me, let's even say it's like $3,000. I don't think it's that much, but let's say it's $3,000. That's $36,000, right? So in a year I'm spending $36,000 plus other costs of designing, hosting the challenge. Maybe in a year I'm spending like about $60,000-$70,000 just running the challenge, right? Let's say average. The question is, can I make more than $70,000 back? And I think it's hell yes, because even me, like I've made maybe like 6-7 times whatever time, energy, money I put into like hosting my cohort-based courses, right? So like I thought about this since like 2021, and I think it's still a viable strategy now, because nobody's doing it. Like nobody's building community first, right? And I've seen some tech, like Dev Congress is a good one in the tech space, and I think there is another product design thing that's trying to like work with communities, but no business whose primary offering it is to connect talent to other businesses is running community first, right? So if I were to build this today, that's kind of the line I'll go. And I kind of have already built that community. So even if I were to launch a product like that, I know that I can at least post like 5 to 10 creatives on the roster who are skilled at different things just from like the work I've done building the community, right? But yeah, this is getting really long. We had like almost 15 minutes now, but I think the opportunity is so very much there. And if I were to do it, that's how I would start. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of put it out there, man. If anyone is interested, and if you're interested in building it and you're like, hey, maybe I'm willing to put in the time, energy, maybe even some of the capital, and you just kind of want me to talk you through it, I'm happy to do that, right? Because I've been thinking about this for years. I just, for a bunch of different reasons, can't commit to it. In fact, let me see if I can show you the last website or the landing page website that I did for this thing before I gave up on it, right? So hold on. Okay, I hope you can see this, right? So this is basically like the pitch, right? So it's deliver more faster with managed creative teams, right? So get more out of your creative budget, build a sustainable, high output, high quality creative operations with the best creative teams from Africa. That's the pitch essentially, right? So if I'm a marketing manager, or I'm a, how do we call it? Yeah, if I'm a marketing manager, product design manager, whatever it is, this is kind of like the pitch, right? So, and the whole thing is like get more out of your creative operations, right? So if I have say $100,000 for the year for my creative operations in the US, that gets me a certain thing, but I can guarantee in Africa that gets you way more output when it comes to just like how many people you can hire and the quality, right? So that's basically the pitch. And I think these are all projects that were executed with like talent here in Africa, right? So for example, this is a brand identity project we did for a company called View Health. They are like a health tech startup, and we went full stack, right? Brand identity, website design and development, product design, and then we collaborated with Effect Studios, which is like another company here in Africa, to get the development done. So like this company essentially built the product at, I think they were at Series A, seed going to A. So at the seed stage, like we work with them, and then when they go into their Series A, we also got to work with them. And this is like Orlux, this is Besa Care, this is Entas, this is Deepen. And like this, honestly, in my opinion, is work that can compete anywhere in the world, right? This is like high quality output. This is not, subpar work. We built a whole illustration system. So this is the branding, and this is what the website design looked like. It's changed a bit now because they've been using it and they've tweaked it. But in my opinion, this is high quality work, right? That could essentially compete, anywhere in the world, right? This is another one we did for a brand called Orlux, right? yeah, so like honestly, this is high quality work that any business anywhere will find useful. Okay. So this was done by people here. Like every single input and output from this project, I'm trying to find deep in. Every single input from this project was done by teams here in Africa. All right, this is messing up now. Okay, so I'm still on Webflow. So this was the website. It's down now because I just wasn't like, but you get the idea, right? I think the opportunity is there, and I think it's just figuring out how to make the connection. So I don't know, just wanted to put this out there. Just wanted to put it out there because I think it's important, and I think it's still a viable opportunity. Will I get back to building it? Maybe not. I'm kind of focused on building something else right now. So maybe I'll get back to it if nobody has cracked it in a few years, maybe in a year or two. Okay, I'm ranting at this point. If you have any thoughts, comments, leave it below. You can DM me if you want to build this and you kind of need some guidance. Heck, I could even just give you everything we've done so far and just whatever. Bye. I'm out.